cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. It's okay. Yeah, lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Got up in the morning, took a shot, it's the rock. Girl, you left my stomach in a knot. Took my lighter and you burned the bridge. Thought you was a writer. No, you just an idol. You got me feeling like Big Sean in this 5, 4, 3, 2. I deserve a minute. Wait a minute. Gotta get up and over. Regain my composure. No longer my lover. Finally finished and you did it. Girl, you really showed me. Think with your heart, don't think with your body. Clever. Sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not Justin Timberlake, write me a river. Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. You tried to convince me it was all in my head, and I felt like it's not you, it's me instead. Hey, I wanted to rock with you, roll with you. Said you was my baby girl, then you left me too. Everything was kosher, perfect like a poster. Then I got word that you wanna lead a picture. Off with somebody else, off with the jerk. With the shame on me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a... Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead.
Interpretation, the app may be.
Yes. Global greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of DeTopiks here on Real Entertainment Network. Blessed evening, Wally. Blessed evening, La Amiga. Blessed evening, the entire Eastern Caribbean. Wherever you are around the world, if you're in Japan, China, America, England, Russia, Burkina Faso, it doesn't matter where you are right now. It's a pleasure to have you locked in here with us on another edition of DeTopiks. And tonight, just like all of the other nights, we do have a very interesting and engaging session planned for you this evening. And so we have with us my co-host Ras Banky, Shabazz King, and we also have our other, we can't call him a guest. He's also another co-host, Ras Aya, who is in with us. And we are also looking forward later on to be joined by Ras Trust I, who is the chair of the ORU here on St. Kitts and Nevis. And we would be looking forward to be engaged in a number of topics, but mainly we are going to be looking at the cannabis, the topic of cannabis, and what's been happening since the medical authority has opened their office and would have presented the various licensing, and it has stimulated a number of debates and discussions in and around the community. It has also sparked some debates amongst the Rastafari community as well. And so we are going to see how we can go through some of these issues as we continue on this edition of the topic. So I want you to call your friends, tell even your enemies, have them lock in and log in, and be sure to join us on the YouTube platform. So go and look for Real Entertainment on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and share YouTube platform. We're going to be doing a lot more from the YouTube platform. So I know that we have a lot of our Facebook followers, and we will still continue to follow on Facebook. But a lot of you would know that in more recent times, Facebook is going to be dropping the videos, so they're only going to be for 30 days on Facebook, but there will be a lifetime on YouTube. So we are hoping to encourage you to follow us over there on the YouTube platform. Now, with all that in-house matters taken care of, I am going to now yield to my two other co-hosts, Ras Banki and Ras Aya, and have them, give their opening remarks, and then we get into, we don't meet business over here, so we can get into the item of what we're going to be dealing with later this evening, So, Shabazz, greetings.
Yes, and good evening to those who tune into Real Entertainment Network and another Tuesday evening of the Topiks. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in and choose this media platform. It shows that you have a lot of respect for what we've been doing here for the past 5 years. So we always got to pay gratitude for all who tune in on the different media platform, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch TV. Right, Yason?
Yes.
Yason simply have an issue.
Yes, we still on Twitch.
Yes. So let me say good evening to the folks in Oli and La Amiga. As Yasan mentioned, it's important that we keep using the ancestral name, the original name, and hopefully one day we have these names and we travel documents and all the different documents when it comes to legality and stuff like that is very important. We live in a time where when a conqueror getting put in power, he erased what he met there, so we need to put back what is original. It's important for these things. Okay, and let me say good evening to folks in the neighboring islands, Saban Station, St. Bart's, and the US Virgin Islands. Also, the folks over in Montserrat, greatly appreciate the guys tuning in, and the folks over in Antigua and Barbuda and Bermuda have folks visiting here, residing here now. Also, the folks throughout the whole Leeward and Windward Island, great and the Greater Antilles, greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Also, folks in diaspora, North America, up to Canada and down to the Florida Keys. Also, the folks over in Europe, it's a different time zone, so definitely we got to appreciate people in a different time zone and listen up to hear what we have to speak about. And this evening is no different. Also, let me say good evening to the folks over in Asia and Africa, and where our students are studying, and especially those who are studying agriculture, as well as right now with all the different war and all the different crises going on, food always remain the number one priority. Anyone who is not taking food serious and protecting the natural resources, you can't have them leading you. Okay, so, and this evening is no different. We're talking about a crop, cannabis, ganja, sensi, cushion ping, whatever you choose to call it. It's a herb just like anything which is medicinal, which we've been saying for decades, but we thought we were lying. But we should know those who fight against it now coming to look that the same plant now is non-poisonous. We'll get into some different discussion. Okay, so Yason been getting a lot of rain, so I was grateful for rain. You know, more grass, more pests when it comes to depending on the environment, not more worms and stuff like that. So important to monitor the environment. If you're a farmer or doing the crops, if you're dealing with sheep and goat, your pen might be flooded, so you have to design your pen off the ground with some slats so the animal don't pick up the disease and stuff like that. So rain is good in some sense, but if you don't practice the good agricultural practices applying to all the different sectors, whether it's into fishing and crops and animals, husbandry, it can really cost you a lot of money if you just choose to just go the cheap and knock up some galvanize and throw them in and pen and let them go in one. When these heavy downpours come down, those sheep will be sitting and goats or whatever it is will be in that area with sitting in all those feces and end up with all kind of bacteria in the hooves and stuff like that. So definitely looking forward for the reason this evening. Was Chasai should be our next guest. He's should be the chair of the ORU. And in studio with me is Ras Aya. Aya, good evening.
Fraternal love and greetings and blessed resting to all in the family of the station carriers.
Real
Entertainment and network, and we like to say thankful for this vital time to impact with the family wherever you be in the global world. We give thanks for joining forwardly, and may the love of the Almighty Creator Haile Selassie the First and Empress Menin and the ancestors protect and keep everyone with the discussion prior to medical herb. Give thanks.
Yes, global greetings, and I give thanks to have you guys with us here on this platform to engage in some of the topics of the day and to really, take some time out to deal with the topic of cannabis. Bangi, you would know for the past 5 years that we've been on this platform that we are the only media outlet that addresses the topic of cannabis. And actually, we set aside the last week in every month to address the topic of cannabis. Now, this is not the last week in the month, but we are addressing cannabis today as well. However, I am just pointing out that this is how serious we have been and committed we have been in terms of seeking to re-educate masses and in some cases educate too, because there's some who would have been very much ignorant towards cannabis, and intentionally so, because we would have recognized over the years the system would have done whatever they can in terms of brainwashing and spreading propaganda, and in a lot of cases blatant lies in relation to cannabis. And one of those major lies happens to be the one that we are going to be focused on this evening, which has to do with addressing the medical aspects of cannabis. And I am saying and putting it in the premise that it's a lie, because we have to go back to the root. And the root of the issue, why we are where we are today, is because in 1937, the United States government would have opted to place cannabis in a category that stated that cannabis has no accepted medicinal use or purpose. They would have placed cannabis because they were seeking to fight it so much. It is the only plant, when you do the research, when you go and look up a Schedule 1 drug, all of the other substances in there could be deemed as chemicals and substances, all of the other items. However, cannabis is placed in there, the only plant in that category. And within that category, they claim it has, well, that is the definition of a Schedule 1 drug, that it has no accepted medicinal use or purpose and can be deemed highly addictive. So, here the blatant lie. Rastafari over the years have been agitating for the use of cannabis within their culture as their traditional use, for traditional use. There are some who subscribe to using it for spiritual or religious purposes. However, it was and is used traditionally, whether to cook, whether to drink, whether for just, relaxation, whatever the case may be. It has been used in many different ways by Rastafari. However, it also has been used as form of medicine, because Rastafari would have been using many different plants as form of medicine. And so that also would have been used as a form of medicine. And as a result, Rastafari would have been saying over all those years as well that the plant do have medicinal uses. And we can go back to Peter Tosh, who would have made that song international and global, legalized. It is good for, glaucoma and asthma and all of these things that he would have mentioned back then, even though they tried their best to almost kill him for promoting such practices and beliefs. And so that's one of the things that we are addressing and going to be dealing with later on this evening. It seems as if I'm seeing Ras Chosai making his way in, but Chosai seems like you're in utter darkness. And what I'm not counting on over there in SK. But anyway, we're gonna get into that topic. So we're gonna let you settle in and all that. But before we get into the cannabis, Banky and Aya and Chosai, there are a few things that we can look at, as the session is called the topics. There are a number of things that's happening between St. Kitts and Nevis, and as Banky talk about the rain, today was a day that we had a lot of seemingly flood, and St. Kitts, I would have seen a lot of different videos in terms of some vehicles get stuck in the gut and things like that. So we just want to send a little note out to the drivers on the road to drive cautiously and be careful. In more recent times, we are seeing a number of accidents, and we really want to encourage our drivers as much as possible to be conscious, and especially this evening when the road is wet. You definitely would want to drive as cautious as possible. We would have heard, I don't know, Banky, if you would have heard of this recent incident in Jamaica where a 9-year-old girl was, her life was taken away. She was raped, and then, her body was found, I think, upside down in a dumpster. And so there is a kind of thing that is happening throughout the region, where we seemingly there is an attack on our young girls, and in some cases women as well. And so it is something that I think, even though we might not see it happening in our territory, St. Kitts and Nevis yet, let me not say yet, let me just say that we're not seeing it, but we still should be conscious and share with our brothers and sisters throughout the region who are going through these things at these times. As I mentioned that as well too, I want to take this time to say that I think that the Rastafari community, and Chosai, well, the head of the chair for ORU. I am going to start,
No, not the
encouraging.
chair for ORU. No. Uncorrected. I'm not the
Okay,
chair for ORU. I'm the subcommittee, the cannabis committee chair of the I'm the co-chair of ORU. Not the chair, the co-chair.
okay, co-chair. Okay, thanks for the correction. What I was gonna say though is, I think that the Rastafari community need to stand up and make their presence known and felt, especially when we see some of these things are happening in our community. I said that on the backdrop of the incident in Guyana with the young girl. I would have seen the Nyabingi community in Guyana, stepping forward and, speaking out on issues like that. I think that it is important that our people can see and feel the presence of Rastafari in that light, because in a lot of cases, that's what we are about. We are not about any violence. We are not about any, rape and, these kind of things. And so I think we should, find a way to sometimes, even if it's, putting something on the ear, making a little speech, or putting it out on social media, something like that for the future. Just a meditation. Anybody want to weigh in on that topic before we move on? Like, what's happening with our young girls and crime and violence that's targeting our young girls as a community?
I mean, yes, and these are just one of the few that might reach on the media, but these things goes on all the time. It's just one atom just come in the media and then we speak and then we forget about it, then we get an uproar. But what about those who are silent? It's like we'll get into discussion about medical cannabis, as the term is, but then when you reach one of the things, what is an adult? Someone who is 18 years old, but in school you can give at 16 you give consent to have sex and these things. So nine still under 16. You see what I mean? So 16 you're not an adult because you did not here state 18 is an adult, virgin. You cannot vote, you can't get a license. So I've been speaking for the last 5 years, and we have lawyers who are plenty females here on the island, and it's obviously that, and they're not advocating for this lot to be changed. We have social development and all, and welfare and all these different areas where children are being neglected. But you're not hearing stand up these government agencies to change these acts. Only me and you talk about these things, I only me care. And how it is me alone care about these things. So when I hear these kind of things, our law itself, so which means we're committing a crime against our own people. Because how they law is just like the law. So it's like which is really above, which really stands, is the Constitution above all the laws of the land, or the Drug Act is above the Constitution? You see what I mean? So a lot of things is conflicting, and we have all these scholars and all these, and nobody's saying anything. So you come in here and speaking about, and then you'll be getting raped. But over in Antigua, what happened? The same way. We live in a society where we have people who believe a lot of different systems and all this different stuff. You know what I mean? And we tend to want to accept these things exist, and want to trust our children with the people who we look up to in the society. And most of the time, those are the ones you have to guard them from, because we are blinded by money. That's the problem within our society. A lot of these things, money is involved and different stuff, along with other things and all these different stuff, and a lot of things is hushed down. People got to understand there are consequences, to their actions, You see what I mean? Because when we have leaders going to parliament and pass that kind of laws to suit themselves and to overlook this kind of laws, you're an adult when when you're 18, but yet you have 16, you can have sex. I have a 15-year-old upstairs. So any big grown man and a 16-year-old can go show me that when you turn 16. You understand? In this year, and then me supposed to can't do nothing about it, but me supposed to look after the grandchild. You see, understand what I mean? Whether the man is 100 years old, the last say he can give consent, but yet I still have to look after my grandchild, and then my mental awareness is not developed. And you see what I mean? And looking after a child, not even working, you have a social security number, nothing like that. So all these flaws are showing, and you hear all these. We have so much females into politics and in the parliament, leaders of parties and all this stuff, and you hear none of them talking about this thing, your brethren. And then you have all these men which are part of these things who have daughters the same way and son. So which means this son is not just female, You could trouble the 16-year-old son, you understand, and have sex with him or whatever, if you like boys or whatever, that's how it is. You see what I mean? It's not, these things don't go to female alone, so don't have trouble your boys too.
That's quite an interesting topic, and it's one of the topics that we would have been speaking about for years now, and I think maybe that is something, Banky, we should seek to get. Maybe, I don't know if it's somebody from social services or which department would be willing to address, and maybe a legal mind also, to really trash out that topic specifically in terms of the age of consent for children. I mean, it is sad that we are in 2025 and we're still having to push this and not even hearing anything from those in authority that can make those necessary changes. Chosai, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I thanks.
Yes, sir.
Again, on the road, so that's why I in darkness still, you know. Pardon me for that. But
Okay.
yeah, today what we're talking about in terms of the society and the politician them. When you look at our society, in my short lifetime, I can recall us as a society ever pushing anything to parliament. You find the politicians them come and say they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. When really and truly it's supposed to be a consultation with I and I, the community, to find out to an extent what do we feel is the best way forward. You see what I'm saying? There should be a consultation, but you find our politicians sit amongst themselves and decide what they're going to campaign and what they're going to propose to the general public. And like you said, there are so many more things, you know what I mean, the situations with the women in particular, you know what I mean, the young people, and they are not tabling these things in parliament. This is where I'm coming from. So, who is really looking out for I and I? You know what I mean? That's a real thing we got to sit down and think about, because we rally behind the politicians, the parties, and when they win, you cannot call them again. During the campaign time, they are easily accessible. They're checking for you. But after the election and they've been elected, they do no longer know you. They are no longer accessible. And this is something we need to realize and come out of the game. You know what I mean? Yes, right.
You know, Chosai, a very good point. Very good point you just brought up, right? And that's one of the things that we have been saying here on this platform as well. We say we are supposed to be a democracy. That's what we taught. We taught that we are a democracy. But in terms of the actions of leadership and the way our government functions, it appears more to be a dictatorship than democracy, based on what you have just highlighted, because this is one of the realities that we have to deal with. At the end of the day, a lot of the decisions that are being made for us or on behalf of us, we had no part of the decision making in terms of having any consultations with them. So they sit down and they say, well, this is what they think that they will do for us and what they think is best for us. But we didn't have a say in whatever project it is that they say that they're going to do. Now, one of my issue with that is that I don't, in a lot of cases, blame the politicians. I am blaming us as a people, because we are the ones who are supposed to be holding them accountable. We supposed to be at the level where we understand that it is a job that we are giving them to do. And that is why when it comes to that last year or the last 6 months before the election, that is the only time they demonstrate that they are our employees and come around and beg us and sometimes bribe us too, because when they try to give you these things and whatever is it that you want or whatever you say you want, is because they know that they're looking to get a job for 5 years. And when you give them that 5 years, that is why if you don't hold them accountable like you should be doing, that is why when you want to talk to them, they could give you all kind of excuses, because at the end of the day, it is the only career opportunity and the only job I know that you could get, and you are the employee, and your bosses can just fire you. They have to wait for 5 years or have a vote of no confidence to get rid of you. And so they take advantage of that. And so I don't blame them. They take advantage. It's like a game. They understand the role, their role, and they're playing their role. It is up to the people to recognize that they are the true bosses and that these people work on behalf of them and should hold them accountable and make them come and consult with them before they go and do anything. Whatever projects they're going to do, that they should be a part of the decision making. So great point you brought up, Rastafari.
Give thanks. May I add something? I'd like to add something to the format of the reasoning. Prior to what Bank outlined, and in the sense that we have seen these things fairly within our community for over the periods of years, but is what reached to the media stream is what take a GIF to the matter, but not really the situation that is at hand. Now, you're outlining that this little 9-year-old in Jamaica, he had to see that kind of person with that kind of mind approaching a child of that magnitude and discarding the child in that kind of essence. We know here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have teenagers at the age of 13 are infected with HIV or AIDS. Do we know that? At this present time?
Yes, I heard that.
And it's a rapid increase taken to our school level too. So looking at what the little girl face in that kind of state, seeing how our young ones them know in our peers of our shows are facing up to these kind of condition that they are living under and facing to feel like this is the only way that they can be availed to a lifestyle. Now, the ones that were portraying these kind of moves are very sick in their mind. And that even we approach the politician, because the politicians them now ready to approach this level by sincere aspect of how we approach them, by seeing that these things don't relate into the communities and bringing some drastic change by methods that create a relief from how our young girls being approached by people who are victims, who are putting themselves approaching like they want some kind of relationship, being into it and knowing that the kind of level that the young child them are the young people, as Banky said, boys are included under that category, not by just how we see him. Because remember, he had a prayer here where some shooting take place in a Newton area where they kill a young youth and the young youth father. You see? So it's different method of these mindset that cycle that move upon our people, and the politicians them are ready to grab the matter that really. So we as a people in the community really need to take a drastic approach in how we're gonna defend our community and our youth. Give thanks.
Yes, sir. As we roll along, the we talk about the youth, we talk about women. In recent times, we would have seen the rally, and support behind Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. It was really a pleasure to see that St. Kitts and Nevis would have had people also represented. They did. Kalanji would have organized a little march. I would have seen some video clips of what took place there. We would have seen Jamaica rolling out, and various territories, England, so there is that seeming united rally behind Ibrahim Traore. That's looking a good look. Now we are in the Caribbean, and on the 18th, I think it's supposed to be Haitian Flag Day. There is a call and a quest for a similar rally behind Haiti to support Haiti, especially with what is happening in Haiti with the U.S. and Dominican Republic militia rounding up Haitian women, some of them who were even pregnant and were seeking to get children and so on, in the hospitals and so on, and deporting them and getting them out of Haiti. You know, a lot of these things happening in the region, and especially when it comes to Haiti, one of the concerns I have is that we don't hear anything. We don't hear much, you know, even from our leadership and so on. Haiti is just like treated as if it's like some bad stepchild of CARICOM or some, you know, outside child or something, and nobody really want to have anything to do with Haiti. Um, I just thought that, you know, it is something that we should, you know, be concerned about, and I would want to encourage our people to support and rally behind our Haitian brothers and sisters, especially knowing that they were the first to gain independence within the region, and they were the first territory, one of the first territories to be an open door for any Africans who were around in the diaspora anywhere in the world and wanted freedom. Haiti was one of those free countries where you could have just gone to. As long as you get away and you were able to reach to that territory, then you gain automatic freedom. And a lot of what Haiti would have done for us as a people, and you know, for the Caribbean as well, I don't think that they have been given the credit and credence, and I don't think that we as a people acknowledge Haiti and the Haitians as much. And I just want to use this little 2 minutes on our forum to show our bit of support and solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Haiti as well. So we can, you know, if you wanna, you know, say anything on that before we move on to the next, you know, we can do that.
We got to understand, yes, and Haiti have mountains full of minerals. So if once you have a lot of natural resources that others need, especially high-ranking superpower countries, they will destabilize your country and set up stuff and bring chaos in your country and bring in people, and while they mine your country and have protection zone, and at the same time they'll still have other places on the island where you would not even believe the most tourists are there where visited at the same time. But then the news media is controlled and everything is systematically designed. So you gotta know how to filter out stuff when you're watching the news and realize in everything there is a motive. It is a rich place in culture and art and minerals in a brethren. And we have a lot of these designer clothes that we wear, Nike and Jordan, a lot of these clothes also made in factories in Haiti and just over in China, you know. They're made right here within the Caribbean for nothing. Exploitation. But then we are taught to hate ourselves. You see? So we think we're better than the Haitians, and the Haitians are us. We think we're better than those people over in Africa, not realizing these are things that set up since in the 1800s with the Berlin Conference. You see? And split and designed when America and France and all these places take up everything and develop because of resources, gold, uranium. Think about it, diamonds, and then your people living in poverty. And it's the same thing we are doing coming back to our agriculture sector where is cannabis included. Same thing. Control mechanism put in place. So you're having the people who lock you, so lock you up. No, we're gonna make money to the same thing, but they need to lock you up for.
And still locking it.
And controlling it and policing it. You see, so these are some of the instructions we gotta come up, we talk about tonight and realize, as I keep saying all the word all the time, we have been canned. Can. So how much awareness can men you hear showing that just when we speak about what happen is what played out. So it's like, so what we do? We see in the future, we seeing ahead of everybody else, everybody else just being in denial. But those who using the herb know this is exactly what the politician would have done. So when they come out with these laws and when administration fail, they just don't come back out and say, well, you know, you make it there. So it's the same thing in Haiti and other places around the
Trust I.
world where
Hold a second. Trust I. Either you do an opening or you reverse light or something.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, give thanks. Yeah, so go ahead, Banky.
so it's the same thing in Haiti. You see where you keep people have to keep overthrowing the government corrupt and put there by other countries, and the same thing over in Burkina Faso. You understand? But Traore, he doing this, so you wouldn't hear our ministers of government and commenting on these things because if he overthrow his government, who cares? Them here need the same thing too, carrying the candidates. You see what I mean? And anyone who affiliated with any of these parties or over 90, 60, 50 years old, the line to the general public automatically, no matter because it's showing these things shows you is the founding people behind these parties for the last 90 and however old the party was still in control. They would never let go their power. You see? Because evidently you see a gentleman here, Mario Show. He's speaking, want to speak, even if you're supporting a party, big lies. And if you speak the truth and you make the party look bad, instead they change what they're doing. They just start to attack you.
They're aggressive.
That's it. So you can't speak. So that's what you see. I'm not affiliated with nobody, your son. I stand independent, and you have to, because these are what going to happen. You're going to get an attack. So the general public seeing this, nothing changes. What's going on now is just like a unity, you know, self-implosion.
But Banky, one of my challenge with some of these things when you say nothing changes, because this is what I'm looking at, it speaks volumes to us as a people, because a lot of these things are only continued because we the people allow it to continue, because the power is really in our hands. But we are allowing them, even though some of us are complaining, we are allowing them to still be able to play these psychological games and be effective with it. So they play the game of divide and rule and conquer, and they win.
The 90% is being controlled by the 10%. You see, those 5% who are little more benefit. You understand?
So, but we allow it to continue. We allow it to continue because they're using the games of divide and rule and conquer, and that is the strategy that has been used over the years. And even though, like you see, a lot of these things, right? It stems into what we're heading into right now in relation to the cannabis. Because even though you have blatant lies exposed, you have people still, some because they have been brainwashed by the propaganda over the years, and another set just because they're set in their ways and they tell themselves that they would not change. This is what they're accustomed to and this is how they're going to deal with it. Here is it that I'm pointing out a blatant lie, where a lie has been promulgated and promoted for over 80 plus years, a blatant lie. And even though truth has been revealed about the lie, because the lie is that it has no accepted medicinal use or purpose. That is a blatant lie. And even though the lie... Yes, I.
We have a call coming in. So let me take this call.
Yeah, take the call. Yes, man.
Caller, good evening.
Shit.
Caller.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, good evening.
Yeah. Yo, man, good night, man. You guys doing, man?
We good. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. I thought I got cut off there, man.
No, you're
great discussions, man. Big up, man. Heal up to the veteran and them, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, I.
Yeah, but thank you, man. I wanna say it like you tonight, man. All the politicians, them in St. Cannabis, they're so corrupt, bro. And the new revelation, the breaking thing since yesterday. Easy Marisha got fired. You know, we see Big Legs got fired. You know what I mean? Marisha was on our show Sunday night. We noticed that the song was being cut out. Mentioned to me that they were jamming or whatever they was doing, you know, interrupting the show so that their message don't get out to the people. They have a lot of sinkers and leavers. The people are very coward, bro. The system is corrupt. The most corrupt there. The Federation should not be allowed to do this. Understand they're the ones that got the power in their hands. The status quo going to stay and remain. Me, I'm an independent person and I'm an independent thinker. It's a need in the Federation for independent-minded people to come forward. And they're not coming forward. So when the next election comes up, the choice is going to be going back to the recyclable politicians. Yes, son, I'm coming straight at you tonight, man. Since the last show, I had a little mock competition with Banky, and you see that Brian clause, bro? It needs to be removed from the Constitution. It needs to be taken away. It's like a barrier around certain citizens. And that barrier got to be broken, got to be taken away because it's coming down to loyalty and allegiance.
Integrity.
I'm going to have, this is something that me personally, I know this. But when Banky had to remind me recently that the politicians of the day on the ground, when they put their hand on the Bible and take an oath, they're pledging allegiance to a foreign entity. They're pledging allegiance to the king and his heirs. They are not pledging allegiance to the people of the Federation.
Carla, hello.
Pledging allegiance to the country of Sinkers and Leavers.
Carla.
So when they're going to put a barrier around us and say that we pledge allegiance to a foreign country, but they're doing the same thing. Yes, son, you get me, man?
Yes. You want to wrap up and call back?
Yeah, sure. No problem. I just wanted to put that in as a footnote. It's not really a part of the discussion that you all are having, really, but I just wanted to point that out to Yason. You know what I mean? The Bryan clause is a barrier around certain citizens, which needs to be removed so we can widen the pool of candidates and give more people a chance to get into that political arena.
All right.
Just as well as they have that stipulation that persons has pledged allegiance to a foreign country and they have a foreign passport, the politicians of the day doing the same thing. We're going to come into character. And to see how these politicians are moving, bro, their behavior is such that allegiance.
Carla, can you call back?
Gone through the door.
I'll
leave it there for now.
All right.
Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, thanks.
Go ahead. Yes, I'm going ahead.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling.
You know that point in terms of the Bryan's clause, I would have heard discussions surrounding it, and for anything that is already constitutional law is in the books, they're gonna have to. It's gonna take whatever 2/3 majority to address that. The thing with
but yeah, stuff like these, you just bring it to the people. Let the people vote on these things, brethren. These things are not up to the politicians. Just politics, just go to the people. Let the people make the decision. Then they can't blame. Then they won't be held accountable for making these decisions. Let the people vote on these things. Have a
But
referendum.
that's the
Let them vote on
thing.
these things.
But that's the thing, Banky. A lot of these
Let them be
discussions,
part of the
these are not the
decision making.
things. These are not the kind of discussions and debates that we hear from our elected officials. And this is why I'm saying they are very effective at the game that they're playing, because while they're there, they use the time to keep the people divided with the petty little arguments and petty little throw it over there and who will do this and who will do that and so on. And then these major issues are never discussed. So even you're talking about we talk about becoming a republic. We would have heard the prime minister when he went to England sometime say he want to do it within his term. Have we ever heard anything about that since? Is there any debates in our society around this topic? Because if things like these are going to be done, it is going to need and stimulate a kind of debate and discussion amongst the people. And this is what we are saying and what Trust Me brought up in regards to us not having the ability to consult and be a part of the consultations in a lot of these major discussions. But one of the point that I wanted to bring out to the caller in relation to our system of government is totally different to the U.S. government. In the U.S. governing system, you vote for a president. In our system, you don't vote for a prime minister. So it is we don't vote for a prime minister, we don't vote for a premier. You vote for elected representative. When they get in, the majority of the party or the majority of the members of that political party who happens to be the majority that wins, they make that decision amongst themselves. So that's the difference, right, with our system. So I guess the Burns clause protects that in a way versus in America. In America, you can be a foreigner and become the president. You might become a senator. You might become a governor. You might become, so you could run in the politics and you could be a part of the politics. But because of how our system is, if you run in our system, anybody who runs stands a chance of being the leader. Because if you run and you win, and your party members decide that they're giving you the support, then you could become the prime minister, you could become the president, the premier. So it's a different kind of system. And so, that would have to be trashed up by the people if that's what they want. And so it would be a constitutional matter. Now, trust I. Yes, sir. Okay, so we're gonna move into that aspect of the topic this evening, or the major topic this evening, as we get into the cannabis side of things. Now, we would have seen the opening of the Medical Cannabis Authority on the 25th of April, and since then, there would have been a lot of discussions around mainly the prices for the licensing and a lot of these things surrounding all that. There is some pushback also from the Rastafari community, and so we are going to be able to get into some of that, and I am going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself from the capacity of the co-chair on the Medical Cannabis Authority. Well, let us know exactly what your position is, and I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Yeah, give
Yes, sir.
thanks for the opportunity to be a part of the discussion this evening. Ras I Trust, chairperson of the OIO Cannabis Committee and co-chair of the organization of Rastafari Unit, which is technically an umbrella organization that champion the affairs of Rastafari, and technically the members of the organization and Rastafari in general. Yeah, we've been part of the movement, the marches to free the herb, the protest, the rally, the demonstrations to free the herb. And as we see, Babylon would have made some attempts to decriminalize and now moving into, as they term it, a medicinal cannabis industry. You know, we saw the opening of the office, and I would say a sham presentation, as they would have stated that Rasta would get the first license. So they know that they were not ready, but nonetheless, they like the publicity stunts, you know what I mean, bring out the cameras to make things look like things, you know what I mean. So they would have called the organizations, Gideon Force, SPAC, and the umbrella organization to be a part of the ceremony, which seems to be the Rasta who allegedly is going to get the first license. See what I'm saying? But we also had the discussion with them of who is Rasta. Because a lot of persons that you see on the media after what the government did, talking about Rasta sellout and Rasta this and Rasta that. When Rasta gather, you know, see them. You see me I come from. But at the end of the day, salvation is personal. So not because a man don't come to the gathering, doesn't mean that he ain't a Rasta. You see where I'm coming from? To each his own. You see where I'm coming from? But at the end of the day, when ones and ones align themselves in a collective under an umbrella, and that umbrella is recognized for whatever reason. You see me I say? Ones who do not align or associate with that umbrella should not see it as an opportunity to chastise or discredit the organization because they are not aligned or not associated. You see where I'm coming from? And that is what we find happening. And even before, we've been saying that the government is not going to do anything for I and I. So we know long time that the prices were going to be ridiculously high, above and beyond I and I as a single man, as a common man. You see where I'm coming from? And when the discussions were going around about farming cooperatives and let we discuss this thing so that when Babylon ready, we done ready for them. Nobody was studying that. But now you hear the talk about cooperatives and banding together. You see where I'm coming from? Yeah, so I personally, as the chair of the Ohio Cannabis Committee, I do not know what the government is really dealing with. I saw the application, the different licenses. I personally not in accordance or agreement with a lot of what is in there. That's where I'm coming from. But at the end of the day, all the politicians care about is numbers. And if there's no volume of persons opposing what is being proposed, then it's going to be seen as we agree. And because chattering sometime in the ear does not help, but organized approaches would do better than coming on social media and cussing and abusing people based on what you feel or you think you know. So I'm coming from, and that is what you find a lot of the social media persons been doing. But nonetheless,
Yeah, but
the government is having a total. Yes, sir.
But just yes,
sir.
if the information that is out in the public is not clear, people is left to assume. You see what I mean? So it's not just people is bashing Rasta and they're gonna speak because is them is a part of some of them is a part of the board. So they'll look at it like that. We have Rastafari here is a part of the medical authority and a part of the board and stuff like that, going to be making decision. You have Rastafari, and I mean, some of the so is like some of these stuff that the kind of the fees that they're talking about and stuff like that. Okay, so it goes back again which I state. Here you have, I'm looking at the freedom of conscience for the Cannabis Act and stuff like that when it comes to interpretation and stuff like that. Adult means a person at age 18 years of age. Okay? And then put on paper, not me. When I read out for the legislation and stuff like that. Okay? And all these things. All right? So it goes back 16. So my point is, okay, information is key when it comes to general public, because Yasin and myself been speaking about these things over 5 years the same way. We know how everything is placed. But when the Constitution gave us, every citizen, not just me becoming a locks on my head or whatever I identify myself with, but the right to use the herb as a privacy, case there. Don't tell me these lawmakers to put these things in place. They didn't know that. So if I was not breaking any law, all right, if all of us was using the cannabis, whether you have locks on the head or not, or whatever religious belief you have, we're not breaking any law. Okay, so which means the government themselves owe us reparation. So how me done been abused over 30 plus years, along with others for over 50 plus years, and then they still want me to pay for something, and me must go, me not be registered, but you accuse me become using herb of all this different stuff like that. So now I have to go. It come here, you know, when it come to this cannabis thing, the application fees. So I'm an adult, and I must get an application fee. You understand, a license to possess 56 grams, okay? And all this different stuff, and to cultivate 5 or less trees. These are the information I'm looking at, the freedom of conscience. You understand? And all these things like that. Virgin, when they don't abuse me, fight against my rights that you legislated and stuff like that I have the right. You owe me, the government's supposed to be paying reparation to all of those. Can you see, they don't admit wrong because they let go those, what you call it again, expunge a lot of people criminal charges, and so they don't admit. So we have a right to have a civil lawsuit to the state. So why the same state want to come and charge me money, $100, and then have to go and get an what you call it there, an ID, which it lasts for a year, and pay and all this different stuff to go to the same plant when the same plant is not illegal? Because the president already been set with the Sankofa case. You see, up to now, a lot of stuff still not been put in place, and the reality, they got to come out and speak exactly what is it, because, yes, I mean, you got to call it what it is, yes, son. We have been canned. These guys are going in and playing around. Yes, Josh,
Banky.
Yes.
So this is where now the ones out there, right, technically now, who would have been victimized, would have done jail time, would have paid monies to the government for her. You see where I'm coming from? This is where now. This is where now they need to band together and lobby for reparation. I and I, as ORU, had made a request for reparation. This is where I come from, because the Rasta community in particular could have been so far along if it wouldn't have been the discrimination against the herb, knowing that that was a number one source of economic for I and I. You see where I'm coming from? So
yes,
I and I deserve reparatory justice, and even the ones who are bald head, who are in association with the herb, they need reparatory justice too. So to say you're gonna give Rasta the first license or free license, what about the other ones them who would have done jail time? You see where I'm coming from? And this is where we were talking to them about a traditional government license.
how will you determine what is the standard set to say, well, this herb is medicinal? How will you determine that? How is that determined, Aya?
Yeah, but
the herb that some herb, the herb that the standard no good. How you determine what is
testing will be implied to in sort to what the determination of the goal of the herb will be value for the medicinal pattern of the use.
So,
okay,
so what would they be testing for?
Well, basically, go by as in we know basically much of the testing is not on the grounds of THC, is more on the CBD pattern side, as we emphasize. We cannot work for that framework and the level of CBD when you know THC and CBD have a various component that they can work for the benefactor of our people within. So when we look at where Banky outlined prior in the early stage, there's a lot of levels need to really recover within how the framework are blazing out to the public. And I would like to echo this here, and I always echo it from the get-go while I was on from the report from the Force Commission that is public education needed to be in core. How we going to formulate a better aspect in how we relationship towards the industry. And when we look at how, even from the judgment that was stated, we went as a medical, we went for right to use and privacy for our use of the herb. Now, the status quo is that the administration, them, not just things and is the regional administration and them, the outside of the regional administration, have used the drive to look at medical instead of respecting the natural growth of the plant. And this is the same format we are facing. That act that is insisting as called Drug Act is a hindrance amongst all people who use herb.
Okay, yeah. Well, when you're speaking about that, you hear licensing. Okay, so if let's say yes, I got some back pain. All right, here you state, okay, a license issue in pursuant to the act, other than a temporary license, shall be valid for 1 year, recorded in the registry of the licensing kept by the ministry. Evidence by the insured license card shall be included. The name of the license, the residential address, and the alphanumerical identification number and all them stuff, and the date, on the expiry date, and an insured date, and a photograph. All right. So Yasan, is there outside forces? Because if I want a card, it means I am forced. I may talk to you, twin, because you're on the board. You're the board representative. So if I want a card, I'm not a part of your organization. I trust yes, an organization. So boom. So I have to go as a regular person. So I'm disputing what is supposed to with the pen of money. So I have to get an ID, a card from a doctor. Go to a doctor who is being paid. You know what I mean? Who is being authorized to, take some workshop and whatever and different stuff, trained in whatever, and to say, well, diagnose, see the problem of back pain and I can't sleep, and he will know to tell me what. I'll write a prescription and I go to one of these shop which is licensed to sell the herb. So the herb that the man across the street has sell can cure the pain that may have.
They can't deny.
May I ask you, huh?
It cannot be denied where you requested for.
Yeah, but remember, I can't buy the herb from nobody else.
When we look at it here, the statement where you're making out is point taken. But the structure that the legislation have been required have been violating still on the code of what require for people use of the herb. Now let me look at the gesture. You use 15 grams. The 15 gram is the insistence that you can move around with.
56.
Well, I see
56 grams.
Okay.
2 ounces.
2 ounces. Now, let me look at one plant in its own capacity, as those say in the label of every individual supposed to have accessibility to. Right? That plant within the 5 plant and ranges and state, it must able to show them go more than the 56 grams. So you're telling me one sheet on over capacity 56 grams. Well, imagine for the 4 others that you require within the 5 tree that you could go in your home, in your yard, but they still tell you you cannot have it in front of your yard. You have to have it in the back. So it is counting your own convenience, your convenience of how you live within your use of the herb.
Yes, of course.
And basically that's showing you is more mechanism need to be aware of how we are dealing with people in these capacity. And you can't be telling me on this level that we must always, because when the first commissioner tell them we cannot imprison people for herb, and this they're still telling us, and we have been calling for a moratorium that bring more favorable status how we're doing our studies and research. And up to this day, we're still facing these problems along the way. So them things that we were seeing that prior legislation and not the proper status that was required for the judgment. These are things that was being by people who have no value of what the herb is about.
So, one of the questions, Yason, you there? Yes.
Some feel it look like.
Yason freeze. Chosai. Chosai.
Yeah, Chosai.
Huh? Chosai. Dai look at Chosai, no?
That's another person on him.
Huh?
Yeah.
All right, folks, it seems to have a little technical difficulties right there. Yason seems to be frozen, and I think he realized he's frozen. But yes, I guess Chosai went for a little bit. But definitely, if you want to be a part of the show, or you have any question like that, the telephone number is 662-7196-1869662 7196. Yes, and you're frozen a little bit there. Here, I was just about to speak about. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Basically, I had to shift device. I had to shift device because that device I was using, the battery power got a bit low, so I had to shift over. So I guess that's what happened there a while ago. But yeah, no, here is one of the things that I have a question in relation to, right? We're talking about the medical cannabis licensing and all of these things. Now we have Ras Aya, who is here, who is on the board. One of the things that I kept saying over these years as we move forward is that I think we have been blindsided a bit by all the excitement and all these things that's happening surrounding the medical aspects of the cannabis. And what I think a lot of our people might not have recognized was that that side was the option that the government took to focus on for two reasons. One, I think because it is the most regulated side. So from a government standpoint, certain things are in place already, and so it's easy for them to work with. But the other side, which is the more important side, is the side that they would be able to make money from. Because it is regulated, it means that they would be able to tax and generate revenue from the taxes or the licenses and the various fees that are put in place. Now, many, and I would have heard a politician alluded to that on Nevis some time back, which puts me in another position too, because we're not hearing anything from Nevis where that is concerned. But in any case, one of the things that they were looking at is the fact that the CBI was not doing as well as it should have been, and they see cannabis as like another way of bringing in some of that revenue that they used to make from that industry. So it's a sort of a diversification for them. So when we really analyze it, like some of the critiques that we're hearing is suggesting, is that that aspect of the system was set up and geared towards and catering towards more of the foreign investors or the outside investors, and or the more wealthy and affluent persons within our communities than the Rastafari community and the average individuals who were bearing the brunt of all of the ridiculing, persecution, lockup, bus head. Some of us even died as a result of the persecutions where cannabis is concerned. And so it is tough for us to have to address this issue and live with the reality that this medical side was not necessarily the side that we should have been zoomed in on. However, the other side, which speaks to recreational or personal use and or religious and spiritual, seemingly is placed under a whole other ministry. So whilst we are talking and deliberating on the medical side, which has all of these different issues, I wonder from Trust Eye's side, if anybody from your organization would have attempted to get the license for the 56 grams or the 5 trees or anything that has to do with that ecclesiastic ministry, where that is where you would have to go to get licenses in that regards. Have that been done on your side? Is there any communication from that minister? Because I've never heard anything from that minister in relation to cannabis. As a matter of fact, the presumption was or is that cannabis was under agriculture. That was how it was being promoted. But seemingly now, as we are delving through the issue, we are finding out that it is not quite exactly that way. So have you, from your side, trust me, reached out to that ministry, the ecclesiastic affairs, or attempted to get the licenses from that side? What is the situation where that is concerned?
We basically waiting technically. For example, as it pertains to the license that they say I and I as Rastafari would get, you know what I mean? I personally thinking at the launch, when we got there, we'll get something saying that we have a license, something marked, free license. But what was issued was an application, which in my purview, I cannot get a license and you cannot give me a license at the ceremony without a consultation before. That's what I'm saying. And the consultation that we had were the back and forth pertaining to the legislation that we do not agree with different sections of the legislation and that they needed to address certain things. But in their addressing their thing, they did not come back to I and I. And even so, having come into a decision with the fees and the different license, it would have been better to have the town hall before you actually go and release the application. So you're going to release the application now and it's going to be faced with backlash, dissatisfaction, and then have to go back to the drawing board when you could have had the consultation and know well what the people thinking and put what the people thinking and recommendations within the vibes. But no, you do what you want. And Miss Gian was saying, we want the feedback so we could take back to the minister so we could correct, address. You know what I mean? To me, that kind of.
So, question, Chosai, I you too,
Idea.
and Yason. So, and say on your premises where you have a gathering and you're growing that cannabis you're growing, is it growing at a medical standard? Are you growing it for what standard is you growing it at? Are you just growing it how you want?
according to the rules, the regulations, right?
Yes.
Rastafari, once you register your place of worship, your ground, right? Technically, you can grow cannabis for sacramental,
You're breaking up. I
but
ain't hear that one
you
there.
can
You're breaking up. You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
grow. Okay, you with me? You can
Yeah.
grow sacrament. So, for example, if Banky decides, well, I am going to register my personal dwelling as a gate of Rastafari,
Mm-hmm.
then Banky can grow whatever quantity of sacrament he wants at that gate. You see what I'm saying? But you are
Yes,
not
but
allowed to sell the sacrament. That's where I'm coming
yes,
from.
but what I'm saying is there a standard have to be set that to define, as I said, this is medical cannabis. So is the sacrament you're growing fall under the medical cannabis? Can you have to get a license? Most would have to get a
No,
license. Maybe not.
no,
Huh?
No.
No.
no. That don't
Okay.
fall under
That's why I want to
the
make sure.
medical cannabis.
Good. So the medical cannabis would have to use certain type of grades of seed then and strains.
Yeah.
And whereas the sacrament don't need to have be of certain strain, is whatever it is.
No, I'm not sure, but what I'm saying with the medical cannabis, right?
Yes.
It is something that has to be monitored. You see where I'm coming from? It's something
Of
that they got
course.
to, yeah, because
Yes,
quote
but
unquote,
when you have the 5
it's
trees too.
public
But what I'm saying,
safety.
you see, yes, but when you register to have
Public
the 5 trees to
safety.
get the same license for $100, yes, son. If you have the
No,
5
Banky,
trees, you have to
Banky.
register the same. Huh?
No,
Yes, but those,
you're not supposed to register for the 5 trees. You're supposed to
you're
register to get a
supposed to.
license for the 5 trees.
You say you're supposed to, but that is what is on the, that is what they have on the papers. But the thing is, though, Banky, the thing is,
Yes.
here's the answer to your question. That which you're
Yes.
asking, and that is why I'm saying that we have not been
Yes.
addressing that side of things all along. Those questions
Yes.
now fall under the ecclesiastic side. So the
Yes.
sacramental and personal use.
Yes.
So when you're getting your license for your 5 trees, or you're getting the license to have your 56 grams and all of that, that is not under medicinal. And that's why I'm saying
Yes.
medicinal is the only category of cannabis that falls under the Ministry of Agriculture. In relation to the personal use or what is considered recreational and religious or sacramental, that falls under the Ministry of Ecclesiastic. So when you need a license for those things, that does not come under the medicinal side. So in relation to when you're going to go it for sacramental or for personal use, it is not going to go through that rigorous regulations as you would have to go through under the medical side, because technically under those sides, whether it's personal or sacramental, it is not expected for you to be selling it for consumption. If so, the argument I guess comes in, if you're going to have to sell it, that is why it would have to be regulated, because then you would have somebody might argue that you sell them something and it causes some kind of effect on them or whatever it is. Then when it is regulated under the medicinal side, you'll be able to say that in this product it has 200 milligrams of CBD, it has 400 milligrams of THC. So technically the person would have an idea of exactly the measurement, and if a doctor is going to prescribe it for whatever, then they would know the quantities of whatever the active ingredients would be. And so that regulation and that's why you would have that sort of regulated structure in place.
Oh, yeah?
But that is what happens.
Fully.
That is what happens on
Yeah.
the medical side. Yes, sir.
Yes, I. So I'm glad you made that distinction. So persons out there, everybody running down money So we want to be part of the so-called medicinal industry. This is where I'm coming from. But at the end of the day, one must be clear and know that if you're going into that, you are going to be scrutinized. You have to comply to the rules and regulations. This is where I'm coming from because it's for the general consumption and safety first. So that means the system is going to come and inspect your grow. So ones who feel like they could manipulate and outsmart, register for a quarter acre and plant an acre, it wouldn't work that way. This is where I'm coming from. You would be in violation. But in terms of all the license and things, for me, it makes no sense because if I am going to go where I am going, there's no guarantee that I would have facilities and other things. So I would definitely need to transport the harvest. So you mean to tell me
You're breaking up.
You're breaking up,
got
Trasai.
to go and the road. I heading home.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah. But I get your point. And this is why consultation, and this is why I have been saying all along, even before this thing, they opened up the office. This was and is one of the cries that we have been and plea that we have been making from this platform for the past 3-4 years, that they need somebody from that organization that Ras is a part of, the medical authority, to have a
We have
PRO.
PRO.
Well, the
We have a
PRO.
PRO yet. We have a PRO yet,
The
big brother
but
Yassan.
that is part of the problem. You don't have a public relations, department, which should have been out there bringing a lot of these issues to the fore, and so that people could have been engaged in a lot of these discussions. What happened now is like they put the cat before the horse, because now you come and put out these legislation and you open the office, you ain't got a license ready yet, you put out your licensing fee, and then now you want to have a discussion because people have a backlash. No, as Trust I was saying, you should have had the consultation before you even put out these things. Really hear from the people and then justify maybe why you think you need to do it that way, and so that the people could have had and be a part of that discussion. But no, you did what you had to do, and then now you're not having to deal with some of the backlashes, and now you want to have consultation.
I pretty son.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to just something to a clear view. Now, you're outlining something that is imperative to the general public ears. And the aspect we have been calling for these invitation to come to the shows for our peers and the administration, even prior to this administration. When the AG, who is now the prior AG, had met with the as he stated, Rastafari community. Well, what was really in turn for his meeting aimed really being out much that he emphasized that we agree on the format of these result, what is now level as legislation, which in what we had entailed to him is that these things need to get changes, they need proper dialogue, so we can make better emphasis on how we're moving forward in this awareness towards the industry. And to this day, he said he would get back to I. So people, we like to tell this generally. The system is a fraud. I mean, me not look no quotation to, but that's what me don't pursue by political aspiration, because when you look at these people, they are not really looking to bring this value of information properly to the people. How long we have here in Freedom of Information Act being read into a parliament, but we still see our people being discoursed by where the information is precise to be reaching out as a way. Looking at you just the outline all up in the program from you and Banky outlining about big lies and Marisha, within their format, they speak from their realms of their political concept, aspect. But I know, they know the things that are very disturbing to what need to be. But what? They speak from it because they're looking to see where they correlate. The best thing I do, what is doing here as a part, is information sharing. Now, we ain't looking to say we want to see what the name can be called from here who discussing these things. But we're looking at that we can bring safety for our people. And the safety for our people is not just by implying that we are Rasta discussing the matter. So it's just Rasta matter is about the safety of all our people. And in the safety, it must be bring out how looking at the launch, the 25th of April, is an embarrassment. I say so without any hesitation. When I say the embarrassment, is you're going into a launch. You want to tell me you're going to a launch with just one individual outlining his display of what his plan is implying for the industry. But there's other people who can be captivated into that same format where we shall, I even tell the minister, plants of ganja should have been on the stage. Pictures highlighting breaking down where the value of the ganja can be restructured. And then we can come on doing some kind of demonstration.
So, but I was the part of planning.
Planning went by agriculture, not by the people of the medical board. So there was a differentiate within how the program of the launch taking to place.
Okay. So let's say who will approve this license, determine who get a license and who don't get a license? Who make those decisions?
The agriculture department have an influence in how the work will carry, but alongside the board still have the initial to carry out in guiding.
So who doing the vetting? Who doing the vetting?
The vetting I go from to the agriculture department. I just
they want to do the vetting of the person
because the board will give the outline. Yes, I. Yeah, you saying something?
No, me listen. I captivated by what you're saying.
So the agriculture department, you say we'll be doing the vetting. So if we don't exactly how the vetting works.
The launch was just allowed on last month, April.
Yes.
Who you think was officially carrying out the work? You think it was the board? No, it wasn't the board. The board was just an overseer to the launch.
I understand.
So that give you the details there.
Okay.
That the ministry in agriculture have more priority stand than what the board carried.
So the next question is then, so a part of the board, do you have was any meeting apart from when it comes to consultation with Minister Samuel Duggins and the PS Miguel and the Navy side you have Minister Agriculture Eric Evelyn and his PS are members? Do they have any insight in all of this discussion when it comes to cannabis on Navy's end? Because I'm made to understand with medical research that Navy's has its own autonomy over agriculture. And I remember Patrice Nisbet, attorney at law, years ago spoke about Navy's can move towards medical cannabis if they want to. They don't have to wait for the federal government. All right? I remember Terry Adams says it's just a plant and all this different stuff like that. So this question is asking to the Minister of Agriculture and also to the Premier, Mr. Brantley, does Navy's has its own autonomy over agriculture, and which include cannabis and all this different stuff, and the 2025 agenda? Because you say, okay, in both of these areas, you realize Sync is going full speed, NASCAR style. A ninja bike, not seriously, a ninja bike. Zoom, 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 right down on the ground, near touch the ground. But Navy's ain't saying nothing. Not even a slow about going to China. They just not speak about it at all. So which mean, so I would like to know this question for those, because they're not taking part in 2012, so that they are fairly 2025 agenda, because they never started. So now they moved the goalpost to 2030. So But up to now, presently, you never hear nothing out of the Minister of Agriculture about cannabis, medicinal. So which means Navy's people have to go out to sink it if they want to apply for something. Would you all have an office over in Navy's, and does it have the same Angelical Association? That's when my ecclesiastic. So will an office? So who will sign over here? I will be an office over here. Well, and issuing these things. How that works?
Just outline that question. There's some level of research within what was raised by the outline in capacity in more how the Navy's body structure will employ within the industry and its level. Because when we look at it, it's going to be a strain to see that the Navy's capacity will have to come down to sink it to enhance their collaboration towards what they're looking at the industry to raise within. Well, even though you have a federal approach, as you just outlined, I remember hearing Patches indicate that same statement you raised on, and it was something that very touching. I see he gets some backlash, and to this day, we're still seeing that this approach was like the man just sitting along and just laying whatever take by the federal is what they're relating with. And I think you need more than just from your federal approach, because you have a legislation go by the local administration within the Navy's oil. They need to have a different movement, or they're going to carry the captivation to the industry in their shows.
Yes, someone said here, and they texted me that we need a petition signing against all these fees and all this stuff going on, and get it started. Set up the petition and get it started, and send out the link so we can start protest this thing and include everything that is needed, reparation, everything, and bring it forth. Because remember, so the question is asked again: which stand first, the Constitution or the Drug Act? Are we going towards international laws over our Drug Act? Because it's obviously all who have been being abused, all this stuff, and suffer persecution over this plant. It's obviously the overriding the Drug Act for the Constitution for the Drug Act and international laws.
Well, I will add to this here, Banky.
Yes.
And to this day, we are saying that we have a legislation for freedom of conscience. But still, we're still seeing every prayer of the month, there's a harassment by the forces of Babylon against our citizens of Singles and Nevis and a wider spectrum within the uses of herb, where they're targeting young one in particular in Preston, and how they have herb as a value crop, meaning those who planting it to make a donny. They want to insert it like they are using trafficking, or they intend to supply. These are the charges we see rapidly moving on our people at these days. So I would say basically the institution are being discarded because of these people have taken lip service for some kind of fund bearer who are giving them to carry out the same Drug Act and even the institutional level of discarding the people to use. So.
Yes, son, Chosai, I know there was some talk about, let me say alleged, that the tourism authority had the interest of using the Eco Park as a lounge area to go the same medicinal cannabis, where tourists can come and, I think I can remember hearing the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Henderson.
And this Minister of Agriculture, where they said they have a collaboration
yes.
to work with it for boost tourism within the.
So which means the government have an interest in growing cannabis and selling cannabis at a lounge set up over at the Eco Park.
That was something I was let out, but I don't know what the format.
Of course.
Today, the carrying.
Yes.
But that's a question that need to resurface and ask, where are we going forward with that statement?
Okay. So the music festival tend to be coming up next month. I know for the last two, they had areas set up inside there where you could have used your cannabis and stuff like that. That part.
That is another thing they're looking to impact and the indication to. So some people are starting to reach on the approach of that when the music festival arena is set up. So there's some in the air movements looking to set up. I think the captivation of where they're moving forward won't be at the same like last time of just having a cardinals of just people just smoking. People just smoking, or is just a way of now phasing other pattern that can be introduced at lounge. The lounge can require ones can go and insist on whether they use the herb, but as it was stated that in that lounge you cannot go out with the herb, you only could use the herb on the premises where the lounge is established. So that is another thing we're still seeing have a hindrance upon how people accessibility to herb are really used in the industry itself.
Okay. Now, yeah, for me, as we continue, now, Trosai, in the earlier part, we were talking about the point was made about Rastafari and the regulations requiring that Rastafari must register with some organization for some form of to demonstrate some form of legitimacy. I don't know if that was something that was agreed on, because I think the argument that the authority uses is that they would have had discussions with the Rastafari community before they made whatever decisions they would have made. And so that's part of the argument that they would have been making, that they would have had consultation with the Rastafari community. Now, Rastafari is a decentralized faith. It is not a top-down religion. Many elders and practitioners follows their own personal convictions and not necessarily any institutional structures. So forcing registration undermines religious freedoms and imposes colonial style governance and an Afrocentric tradition. That's how I am seeing it, because you would see that they will demonstrating as a double standard when you look at it from that way. For example, Christians aren't required to prove membership to exercise sacrament rights. So if a Christian want to use the wine, they're not got to require prove that they're any part of any member to do that. You know what I mean? So why single out Rastafari? Why Rastafari, if you're going to get access to your sacrament, that you must be a part of some sort of organization? Now, don't get me wrong. I am not trying to push back and say that we shouldn't seek to organize and centralize more, because that is part of Rastafari tradition. However, just like within Christianity, our Christians are a part of any church organization, and likewise our Rastafari is a part of any Rastafari organization. And to be more blatant, and St. Kitts and Nevis per se, if you have 1,000 Rastafari and St. Kitts and Nevis, 800 ain't a part of no organization. So, to me, by just doing that, it's either you're forcing Rastafari to be a part of an organization in order to benefit, you totally discriminated.
They're collecting data. Are they forced by, that's what I mentioned earlier, are they not telling us the truth? Are they being forced by outside influence to collect data and make sure and people register to see who are using the cannabis and all these stuff? That's the main, but they're not telling us these things. Because made to understand.
If they recognize Rastafari as a legitimate faith, then you must respect its diversity. You can't force members into a bureaucratic box and say that they must be a member.
You can.
No.
Let's say the outside forces, the US and them have stipulation where they tell them these are things you all will have to do so that what I'm just saying, unless they're not telling us, they can make to understand these are some of the things that are being put upon these people, you know. Have us, that's why we have to, these people have to register and have this because of these situations. They're not telling us these things. My research
But Banky,
things.
you just asked a critical question there. The critical question where you put there, you know, the critical question you put there, the Constitution or the Drug Act.
Yes. Of
Seemingly,
course.
these outside forces that you're talking about, these outside forces are representing the Drug Act. They are representing the Drug Act. They are representing our Constitution. So it's left for our elected officials to represent and push forward for our Constitution. But instead of doing that, they're using the easy way out.
You're contradicting yourself. But you're contradicting yourself now because you realize they work with the outside forces.
So that's what I'm saying. So instead of them pushing our Constitution, they're working with the outside forces. So that's what I'm saying. They're going along with the Drug Act instead of pushing what they should be pushing, which is our Constitution, which had to be forced on them by Sankofa case.
Let me look at a typical example. In 2019, the judgment was stated that you cannot suicide your foreign policy or your what you call it, your obligation, international obligation over your institution, where it must able to know that can bring no danger to your citizen. Now here is it. 2 parliament representatives went into the parliament that same year, state category that the judge cannot tell the parliament what to do. 2 of them, not one say it, 2 of them say it in the same day of that discussion toward the legislation of the matter that was against them violating Rastafari and people of use within the whole, because the judge stated you cannot succeed of an international agreement over your institution that is where you're having violation big time towards your people. Now, not even the former administration or this administration have lived up to the rights of that judgment that entail them that they are still violating. That's what you see. They themselves, watch me when Samuel went when we launched the license authority in 2024 at July the 4th of July. I asked the minister the question like this: where is it that we are still seeing this Drug Act is getting more priority over our people when the use of here? This is where you are coming in. So you see generally that they, in this sense, as Banky said, they are working with the people. They're pushing the agenda for the people. They want us to make them feel like they commit the change. So we must all come here and tell them, oh, the best way is to have a revolution stand. The time when that judgment had heard in 2019, I stayed to the Rastafari organization. Let us go and have a protest. Once take it lightly, like it wasn't supposed to stay like that. Because the initial going with that outline. Protest say mean go down the word that make noise in a protest, you can get a placard and what you need to say on your placard and just go down with a silent protest. You're not disrupting the flow traffic because you don't know how your protection will take into that action. That was on the same eve of the time when them were going into parliament to describe what their answer to the 90 days extension that I asked the judge on. So you see, if I and I only just outlining that these are time and measures we have to take things in drastic measures. Because people don't like what you're saying. But you have to do the magnitude to get the awareness to the people, not for your personal gain, but the awareness.
So Chosai there?
Yeah, he should be there. Chosai?
So Aya, if your organization want to get involved in the cannabis industry, the medical part, the license is free.
The license that apply to us be at free. From
everything, all the license, transport, everything.
Well, may see the details go all into all of the capacity.
Well, which one you going into? Just to go?
I say I don't see the details that went into all the capacity. So it can be related to that.
Not
still, it could be related according to the approach you take.
So you wouldn't need you wouldn't pay no fee when it comes to transport, extracting, nothing. And the next question is, are we capable of controlling and growing the same quality of cannabis like anyone else out there? And if that's the case, why do we need to bring people here? Why should we bring people here to grow the same cannabis if we can? Why can't we be niche? If we can meet the standard, if we choose to, those want to get involved, locals and stuff like that, it should be niche just for, when I say local, I mean natives only. That is what I'm pushing for. You understand? That is just from my person and not from nobody else. If it's a niche product, and it should be captured properly and not just get wild about everybody seek like it's a cigarette where you just go to the highest bidder. It should be niche, and you should have a fund where $500 million put in place, where if Yason or Trust I group or you all want, because it's agriculture it is, and you must think about safety. You understand? Think about land, soil degradation, and all this different stuff. Everything you have to think about, pest management, disease, and all this different stuff, and along with the pesticide boards. So if these are the case, if we can go to help to meet the standards, which I know of, we have many good growers here. You understand? If I have to choose 50 or 100 growers from Navis, 100 or 200 growers from Sinkis, or vice versa, you can't tell the herb ain't growing Navis, and compared to any herb grow anywhere else, it's a much better quality and flavor and all this stuff, right? You see what I mean? So these are the questions to you guys. Do you all have the same views that you all want to be a niche entity, or you all want to bring in outsiders investors?
The capacity, not basically on the same level. That for me, I think it should be by local. Local got the better venture of getting that movement.
These are locally grown, and you're part of the board. So I'm part of the board. How do you smell? Stop laughing at yourself. You're part of the... So what is this quality? Is this medicinal?
No, that's natural.
That's natural herb? So this now pass?
Well, if you pass, it is going to... Well, when we look at the basic aspect of it is that much of the formality of how the board function carry, I will say we push much out for the outside capacity. But we have required that we need our local to have the first approach, and I hope that is the insistence that the approach will take.
No, not first approach. Back up again. Cause I remember hearing Astafan spoke about for the first 5 years, let local, and then after 5 years, they bring in outside if they want.
When you say Astafan?
Yes. And a commentary where for the first 5 years, the locals should have the first 5 years alone, and after 5 years, then they bring in those
outside.
Yeah. No, I said no. You understand?
You keep the local.
By speaking that, do I not have the interest of the speaking something like that? Because it shows that it will be overwhelming. No matter how much head start you think you give the locals, if our people are not putting the resources where people can access funding and all these things, it does, and then most of them will want to still go and invest with other non-nationals. So we really got to protect these kind of yes.
Banky, as much as I am hearing that, right? In a practical world, how practical is what you are suggesting? And this is why this is the angle I'm coming from.
Very practical.
Okay, so if it's practical, hold on. I hear what you're saying. Right? However, we can go tomato, we can go white potato, we can go sweet potato, we can go all of these different things. Would we say then too that we should put a ban on all of these things, that nobody should be able to come in and go these things, and nobody should be able to come in and...
But I still stand where we can be niche.
So, but if you this is what I'm talking about. When you're talking about niche, you're talking about a niche market. You're talking about, and this is why I guess we have to look at the cannabis from that holistic approach. Because when you're talking about a niche market, you're looking at a niche market for maybe you and whether it's smokers and users of various in various different farms. But when you're talking about an industry with medicine, you can't control, you can't say that only Sinkish people could make medicine for Sinkish people. Is an industry that's open up.
Make for thinking people. No, what I'm saying is that the indigenous people can go the same standard and could be shipped out the same way to anybody who want it. Now have nothing to think it's only these people. Go the same standard, international standard, but it could be upgraded and it could be shipped out to Canada, Europe, whoever want it. It's been marketed, but it's just been controlled by its local people. That's what I keep speaking about, not just for our own people. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
That's what I've been talking about all the time.
But the practicality of it, that's what I'm saying. Because for example, for the medicinal industry, there are things that we have to put in place in terms of infrastructure in order to just even meet the basic requirements to do what is necessary. Would we have
them about to spend $500 million on geothermal and can't guarantee you when it gonna done, how much money gonna be spent to reach, if you're gonna reach $1 billion, and what are the guarantees, and you're not even starting to run underground cable yet to distribute the power and sell the power and all this stuff. You don't even know Navy is gonna get out of that. You see what I mean? So all these things work.
Yeah, but if their objective is to make money, if their objective is to make money off of the cannabis industry and they're not really interested in it, you think they're going to want to invest any money into something that they don't even believe in the first instance? So their objective is to get the money. And they know that the locals, they got the money. So they will set up the business in a way that foreigners will come in to bring in the money, because their objective, remember that's the reality, the objective is different for ours, The objective is to look to get revenue from the industry. That is what they are looking for.
But
and they know that we ain't for us to get involved in the industry in the way you're talking, it would mean now that they will have to have the money to invest in us to help us make it through. And that's not what they would be interested in.
How money be? But how money it is?
You could talk like that. But the reality is, okay. So hold on, Banky. Let's be realistic. We are spending over $200 million to import food annually. They could take up $200 million and invest it in agriculture. Who money be? Ours. But are they doing it? Do they see the?
What about tourism?
There's a great need for tourism. If they ain't doing it for agriculture, and they put cannabis in agriculture, you think they're gonna do it?
What about tourism? What are they doing with tourism, with resources?
They see how they could make money from tourism, and so that's why they would invest money in tourism.
Okay.
But they see how they're gonna make money from the cannabis. But the way how they want to make the money from the cannabis, money from the cannabis is not through you. It's through the foreign investors coming in and paying these heavy fines so that they could get the big money. They're not interested in. So that's why even for Rasta,
fine. Yes.
That's why even for Rasta, they ain't want Rastafari in the commercial business, They say, Rasta, you could smoke as much as I want. You get all your rights. You can get all your ways to cultivate it and use it in your sacrament and all your farm and so. But if you want to do business, you have to fit into the commercial side of things. You have to come over on that side and pay the same kind of licenses like everybody else.
Who?
For the commercial side.
That's what you asked. Yeah.
So I pay that kind of license. We still have accessibility freely.
For commercial?
To the medical one?
For commercial? For the commercial side to do it and sell it?
That's right. That was
It seem like Banky get squeezed up there. Trust I.
To travel with and to have it for commercial. So you're not paid to the level that by the people at the only time of our elders and fans of this time.
Coming upon this.
Just like
Just like
from
yeah,
your understanding, because this is how I am understanding it, right? Rastafari is going to get free licenses to grow the cannabis, the 5 trees, the 56 grams. In terms of the commercialization now to grow and sell on that side, y'all are getting free licenses for that as well too? On the
Well, we
commercial
would
side
have
to get into the
requested,
business side.
we would have requested whatever happening in the medical industry or whatever industry they're doing. I deserve free license. As I said, so if it's 50 license they got, we would have made a request for all. You see what I'm saying? So we still basically waiting to see what they deem a term a free license for Rastafari. We still are waiting that. You see what I'm saying? But technically, in our position paper, we would have made it clear that whatever licenses are being distributed under the medicinal industry, we deserve and should get a free license. You see what I'm saying? To operate however we feel to operate it. You see where I'm coming from?
So,
But we also make
No,
it clear to them
seeing,
that.
Yes, son.
Hey there.
Just like yes, son. Just like
yes sir,
Hey there.
yes sir.
you could remember when a chair make the appearance at the Empress Many luncheon. It was the luncheon. It was the Gideon Force organic market.
The man.
Yeah, Duran. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was trying to get the awareness to that. Duran stated on the mic at that function that Rastafari will be issue free licensing across the board. So me just tell you, Hassan, here generally, we the capacity within commercial, we have the right to have a free licensing to the industry to use of that. We ain't supposed to pay no money. Remember that we call it repertory justice. Not just for I and I as Rasta.
Okay, I think that also from you might be right, but I think from my understanding, it also falls under the same category where you would get licensed, but it has to be under the format of a group or a cooperative. You have to be a part of a
So you don't know,
Rastafari organization or group in order to get such a license. So I think, yes, I think that might be the understanding. So yes, I think that is the scenario.
So yes, son. So why can't I get a license? Why do I have to be a part of a group? So who
Well,
determines
these
these
are some of the
things?
things. These are some of the things. These are some of the questions that I have.
It going further beyond just a group between them. So is that it classified as Rastafari, but it give a label and group aspect too. But it can go further beyond a group once you see the insistence of what Rastafari you proceed and you just outline the diversity.
This thing you seem like
From
to me.
what I understand here, even if you're not a Rastafari, how the license is structured for the locals. Well, Rastafari especially, you have to be a member of a group. So I can go there to the license, the medical authority as a Rastafari and say I'm a Rastafari and I want a license to go whatever. I would have to register as a part of whether it's PAX or whether it's Gideon Force ORU, whatever it is. I would have to be a part of one of the Rastafari organization.
You ain't entirely to say that you have to be a part, but you could get a guideline from the organization body that not just in particularly be a part, because there we got some who not generally into
Get a guideline. We're in a guideline.
That the
That
group can protect.
Well, we're talking about guideline. What? Where I need to come to get a? What me need to come to go me weed? Why do I need to come to what the quick need to go weed when me go all the time?
That you're going to go with you just gain accessibility to.
But access me, but when me can't see me Rasta, what me need access, we need your approval for What me need your approval for? Your approval you're seeking.
But that is the code that they're working forward in. That may say that the approval that need to carry over that is what it's been used.
So the man who not gonna knock in a Rasta, or the female who not gonna knock for the Rasta.
Determination you can't discount who is functioning as Rastafari.
So therefore, why would they need to get registered if something is legal?
Register within the group, they can get guidance through the group moving forward to get what they want.
When we get what they want,
you're going to accessible to the market where you're looking at the marketing.
Which market?
Because you're applying for the commercial part.
Yeah, so I have to go to the group, so we can't just go as an individual.
Well, yes, and just outline is that the detailing going forward.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, but why that don't make no sense? How they write why would they write these things? Why would they put these things in the place where a visual who is like I've been charged for herb, right? I've been charged for herb. Charged for herb because I'm bringing herb in a I will terminate my herb seed we're talking about. You understand? You still charge me for herb for weed. But no, yet this come ask you for a license to go the same weed and send me a Rasta. That don't make no sense, Virgin. This don't make no sense.
Well, you see, this is what I am saying.
That makes sense to you.
At the end of the day, Banky, at the end of the day, Rastafari is still being totally disrespected. Rastafari is still being disrespected.
That's the whole point.
And this is the part of my thing is like the argument that they're using is that they would have had consultations with the Rastafari. It's sort of like the game that is being played by the politicians, because when the politicians go in the house and speak, they say they're speaking on behalf of the people. And in their minds, when they say they're speaking on behalf of the people, they go because the argument that they're using is that a certain set of people in their constituency or their community voted for them to go there. So without even consulting with the people, they're moving on that authorization, the fact that a certain set of people vote them in there, and they have the numbers to justify that, so they're in there representing us. Likewise, they would have said they address the Rastafari community because they would have had consultations with ORU and whatever other organizations of Rastafari. The issue is, though, and the reality is, if, like I said prior, if 1,000 people are Rastafari and think it's a Nevis, only 200 might be members of any of those Rastafari organizations. So then if you only spoke to those 200 people, are you really catering for Rastafari when you ignore 800? And I'm just using numbers to kind of justify the example of what I'm saying. So the reality is,
yes, son. Yes, I'm catering. So if you want to be a part, yes, they're saying you have to register. I want to keep a tap on you, so I want you to register. I want you to register to know I'll be a part of way. And then, is this a part of me? You're getting build up your organization? Is it's a part of it?
That is something that they want it to look like.
Who look like? Who you mean? What you say?
Well, it's in legislation to imply and so.
So that way it is. So to
but
build.
Meaning that we're supposed to make one come into the organization to get accessible.
So it goes back again. Are there these outside influences forcing them to family for them to register to keep a tab on how their community, these communities are growing, and the age group, from which age group today between 18 to 25 and 25 to 30, because all these data could be used for different situations, and then can you register? Well, what you understand? What are the it have to be? So when I asked the chair about this thing, well, what is all this data? Are the correct data? And she said, well, what do you mean data? I know the system work with, yes, I know how data works. I work with data all the time. I can manipulate data and all the different stuff.
No,
There's something
Banky,
you said?
Aya,
Yes.
Banky, Aya, sorry. We rolling down on the closing hour or the closing time,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
However, based on the discussions that we would have had so far, right? What I am hearing from the discussions that we would have had is that we must amend the Cannabis Act. The Cannabis Act needs amending. Whatever it is that they have out there, whatever, and some of these figures and so that they put out there need amending. One of the first things that need to be addressed in the amending is to remove the Rastafari membership requirement for sacramental use. Don't tell me that I must be a part of a Rastafari organization for me to sign up to use cannabis as a
Yes, I
sacrament. So
second
that is
that.
the first amendment that need to be addressed.
Second that.
Create a low barrier for licenses for small scale Rastafari growers. I mean, they already have something in place and they done say that, okay, Rastafari free, but we need to also, in that aspect, remove that you must be any member of any group or any organization. I find that is discriminatory.
Fire.
And third,
Fire Pandasan. Fire.
which I haven't
Yes.
heard Rastafari push for this, but I am suggesting that the Rastafari community need to agitate for this, which is to allocate tax revenue. So the money that they're gonna make off the licensing fees, a percentage of that should go to the Rastafari community to continue uplift Rastafari and as a part of reparatory justice for the people who they lock up and brutalize and bang up and for all of these years. For all this money that they're generating, right, from the taxes for cannabis, a certain percentage should be going back into the Rastafari communities and Rastafari organizations.
So sorry about that right now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was a part. That is a part of the position paper submitted to the government, right? I even want to go as far as to say that we were even trying to ask for even 20%. 20%. Some people are saying that's so high, which you don't know anything still. But I think we recommend at least 10%, just like the church has said 10%. You see me say? We want we tithes.
20% can't be high. 20% can't be high for all the persecution the Rastafari go through for the same cannabis where you want to make money off of. No, man. No, 20% can't be too high. No, Rastafari. Here is one of the things that I think you guys need to do at this point. You see that paper that you're talking about, the position paper, you all need to be putting that out in the public so the public can also see what you all propose versus what you all are getting. So that when we are making the arguments from the Rastafari perspective, they ain't just think that we just come up with these things and we just talking. And make sure you date it too. So you show them how long ago you all made this presentation to the government and how much of it has been ignored. So it's not that, it's so that the people will also realize that it's not that Rastafari has been quiet and the Rastafari community has been silent. But unless you all present these things, people are going to presume that Rastafari just sit back and allow the government to do X, Y, and Z. No, we know that they move the way they move because they feel like Rastafari ain't got that kind of clout. But if we start to do these things and putting our things out there and representing, it would have a whole different paradigm. And it would also empower a lot more of even some of those members who are not a part of any organization to strengthen up and maybe seek to want to be a part of when they realize that what the organizations have been doing on behalf of them, because in a lot of cases too, some of them don't know. So I think that position paper and some more of the things that the Rastafari organizations are doing need to be on the forefront, which brings me back to, I guess, the initial point that I made when I introduced Trusai, when I said that the Rastafari community need to be more in the faces, like, representing the issues in the community. So when things happen and so on, So maybe Rastafari need a PRO themselves too, so that they could have a social media page and all of these kind of things. I know sometimes we used to say we burn technology and all of these things, but we're at a stage now where we have to use these things to our advantage. So that's my little 2 cents. I'm gonna let everybody give their little closing remarks while I seek to arrange for the Real Entertainment team to take us out. So Chosai, you could give your final comments and then I'll take it over to Banky and Raphael.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a good suggestion to make the position paper public. But in all, still, a lot of people only want to align themselves with certain things when they see potential benefits. You see where I'm coming from? Over the years when the protest marches been going on, people refusing to come out and march because they're looking at it that if they march, they're going to send the message that they smoke weed, they're associated with weed, and police going to target them. You check? So they refuse to march. You see where I'm coming from? Even when we call meetings and discussions, persons still refuse to attend. You see where I'm coming from? But to each his own, everybody got a right. You see where I'm coming from? And at the end of the day, we're trying to lobby for the rights of all I and I, human rights. You see where I'm coming from? And as I always say, education got a lot to do with it. And without the proper education, you see where I'm coming from, these things don't forever happen. Because up to now, we've been asking for a moratorium since they started to do the discussion, the town hall and so about the herb. And they ain't do that. But I know they said that the criminality, they still continue to take up certain people herb, which is a violation. So how come Nubian could flask all the herb trees them? How come you, Banky, could flask all your herb tree them? You see where I come from? And another man still
Come
there.
and do me one.
Babylon still
Cause
coming.
herb legal to me,
You see
trust
where I
I.
come from?
Remember herb legal to me, can navigate in the line of trust I. So me go me herb because the constitution give me that right. So me not called to do that.
But
That's the difference.
So
me
what
me
me
not
say?
me,
So
me
what
not
me
do
say,
wrong.
Banky?
So you can go your herb.
So
I can go your herb. I choose not to. You see, that's the difference. Me just taking a bold step.
yeah, but
That's
what
all
I'm
it is.
saying,
Because I know it's my right.
Banky. But you
Yes.
got man that do them thing and exercise them constitutional right, but yet still
Yes.
police are going to take up them man thing. As I say,
They're
I
wrong.
charge them man for trafficking and them kind of story
But they're
of
wrong.
recent since the government would
But
have,
that is wrong.
you know what I mean, decriminalize, launch this thing, pass legislation. You see where I'm coming from? So you see the hypocrisy and I keep telling people Babylon now do nothing for I and I, you know. So no feel like say we sitting down with them and putting reviews across to them man working with what we say. Them man gonna say yeah and still do what they feel to do. That's where I'm coming from. So at the end of the day, if it not go how we see it supposed to go, the only option is to do what Sankofa do and take the government back to court. You see what I'm saying? Because up to now, they have not implemented the ruling from Sankofa's case, but yet still they want to go and push an industry and still discriminate against I and I. So if they're not here, then it's back to court. Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes,
you see,
I.
Chosai, that's one of the reasons why I am suggesting that the item utilize social media more, because even the politicians are not even using the campaign, the public town hall meeting strategy and so on, the public meeting strategy as much. They also are using social media. So what I am saying is, even these issues that we're talking about, whether it's petitions that we're gonna do, if it is like I suggested there, put out that document that you have put, so that whatever information, so more people are going to see it and you get more traction via social media and so on. So we need to use these platforms as much as possible to get the message out. So Rastafari and the organizations may need to start to take these kind of approaches, because Like I'm saying, that same document that you're talking about, I'm sure if that is supposed to be presented, a lot of the people who might have certain perceptions, when they see it, will be like, but I didn't know Rastafari presented this thing to the government, and the government still have to do this, and you understand? So that is something that you should really take into consideration. Banky, Banky, Rastaya, your final comments as we close out.
Yeah, I'd like to say thankful for having I and the topic and the I views to how the industry is aligning in the shores of St. and Nevis and even regionally. And I would just like to raise some serious movements to see that we have a priority to stand up against the drug act as human being, and we must able to win that status quo in making sure that the institution that is the supreme law of the land be protected to the people of his land that is supposed to require the safety. Whether he or she use the herb in their respect as a holistic level, they must be able to require that protection. While I've seen some one levels have been inquired between five communities in Antigua and Barbuda. We say respect to their level of the approach within, but I need these farmers to have a plans, not just for and who are in group, but who are of the Rastafari community. Whether you are part of a group or you are not a part of a group, we must be learned to be respected within our way of living and have the value of the herb. Whether you smoke it, eat it, or you use it in the capacity towards your elements of life must be valued and not be dictated by no politician, even by the state. And that's why I now need more agitation to challenge the administration in changing that jogger. Give thanks.
Yes, and all I want to do is to encourage everyone to continue growing the herb. And when the police then come to take up the herb, record them. Let them know they're infringing on their constitutional right. You see what I mean? Because the Drug Act is infringing on every citizen's rights. And that's what I've been talking about over and over. I may not change that. You see, as just I say, how come they're not this? Virgin, everybody, that is wrong. Everybody have got a herb. Because I don't go through a tribulation for the last 30 years and still I go through it. You see me to show you. Still I go through it. A man not call. So me not go call no virgin because nobody did me a favor. They not do us no favor. Because we know the herb was always good. And we still here use the same herb. So why would I need it? What you call it there?
I killed that thing.
No, I approval to use this herb and tell me how much trees to grow when the constitution give me the way to use the herb and to cultivate. And now the same thing that was bad, now it is good. You see, these are the problems that we have in here. So as Carlos are asking for petitions, you gotta stand up. People gotta stand up in these times here and realize we're not accepting these fees. We're not accepting all these fees for transportation, for this, for that. Man is supposed to pay no kind of fee for the herb. How can you fighting against me and beat me up and lock me up and charge me all kind of money, your thief from me, and yet you come charge me not 1 cent I supposed to pay. Herb is legal for man. That's how man see herb. It's a part of man diet that man use every day. Drink tea. The youth them drink it. We wife them use it. We mom them use it. The community use it, virgin. People with cancer patient that call man for herb to make herb tea and different stuff for them. So man, these are things I've been doing years upon years. So I don't need no politician to come tell me nothing about no herb. I ain't listening to them. Because they're not about no herb. How can you talk in one breath the herb is bad and now you come out and tell me the herb is good? When me know the herb good all the time. I don't need your approval, virgin. That is my wrap up with that. So free up the herb.
Thanks. Give thanks.
And not guilty for herb. Not guilty for herb.
And that's the way we're gonna wrap up this edition of the topics for this evening. I want to give thanks to Rash Chosai, the co-chair of the Cannabis body of the Cannabis arm of the ORU and co-chair of the ORU, Organization of Rastafari unity based on St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to give thanks to Ras Aya, who is also a member of the Medical Cannabis Authority on St. Kitts and Nevis, and my other co-host, Ras Shabazz Banky King, for being a part of this evening's edition of the Topics. Chosai, we're definitely going to have to get you back at some point to talk Rastafari, not so much maybe cannabis. Well, cannabis might be a part of the topic anyway, but lots happening in our region. You can also use that time to encourage people to be a part of the ORU and share a little bit more about the ORU. We would have had Higher Heights on our platform, the Higher Heights Rastafari organization, sharing a little bit about what they do and what they would have been doing over the past 3 years. And you can also, if you want to use the time to Rastafari to talk about SPACs, your organization as well, your agricultural organization as well. So we'll bring you back for that.
Just to plug something there. We're gonna be wrapping up a session of youth in agriculture, where we've been having youths, mostly primary school youths, and a few secondary school youths coming to the farm and engaging in crop production and management. We should have the closing session on the 24th of May alongside the Public Bank. We want to thank them for sponsoring us. And just to let the general public know, the first Saturday in July coming, we're going to be making 15 years since we reopened the market in Sandy Point. So come check us out when you get a chance.
Congrats, big move.
Okay, so I think based on that, I think maybe this would be better suited for everything agriculture topic. So Banky, we would try to organize and get Chosai on before the ending of this workshop, because especially dealing with the youths, I'm very much delighted to always hear that involvement. So Chosai, and also in terms of Rastafari, we would have seen recently informed that Ras Irai is now the head of the Caribbean Rastafari organization. I want to say congratulations in Kitts and Nevis getting the opportunity to be the head of the Caribbean Rastafari organization. That is a big move, and so it speaks well for the Rastafari community. Things are happening, and so we'll have to definitely do a topic on that, and so we will do that. So people, give thanks for all of you who would have been listening, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitch. We want to encourage you to log on to our YouTube platform and stick and stay with Real Entertainment Network. We would have a lot more coming to you from this platform. Enough respect, enough love. Until Friday, we see you again. Rastafari.
Me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a. Lately I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have